Hello, everybody, and welcome to the BTP podcast. I'm Brett Tippie, and I'm here with the one and only Elladee Brown, Canadian cycling legend and an old buddy of mine. She was one of the first free riders ever in the movies, in the Kranked movies. She was also a professional cross-country and downhill racer, and she got a silver medal in the World Championships way back in the day, plus a bunch of other really good results. And she's still cycling today, and she just cycled a gravel bike over to my house here today. And thanks for coming over. How are you?
Doing great, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Right on. So let's start at the beginning. You've done a lot of racing. You've been very fast. You know, you were very fast in the 80s, the 90s, and then you've worked in the industry. You've been a free rider. You've run wrote some gnarly lines. But tell us where it all began. Tell us about your first bicycle.
My first bicycle?
Bicycle.
Was, probably when I was, well, it was a tricycle, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't even a bicycle.
Because you tried to ride
it? Oh, God. Here we go.
What's the difference between a well-dressed kid on a bicycle and a poorly dressed kid on a tricycle?
Dunno.
A tire.
Hey, enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Yeah. What do you think of me? So you had a tricycle.
So I had a tricycle, and I do actually have one significant memory about that tricycle because I was on my granny and grandpa's little veranda deck, and I was coming in too hot on a corner, and it tipped, and my dad had his chainsaw sitting down on the deck, and I hand planted right into the blade of the saw, and I ripped my hand open, and I always have this memory of my dad just coming out horrified, seeing all the blood, threw me in his arms, ran to the medical clinic that was literally a block and a half from my granny and grandpa's. He was just so freaked, blood everywhere. And so, yeah, that was my first biking experience. And then it got better when I got on two wheels.
Oh, yes.
I had more control in the corners.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, don't ride a tricycle.
Right.
Ride a run bike, kids.
Yes. Well, that's modern technology. I wish we had those when we were kids, when we crashed it into chainsaws.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure most kids have a pretty horrific story of something happening on a tricycle or a bicycle. But so, yeah, that was the start. And then just living in a really wide open space like Nakusp. We lived about a kilometer out of actual town of Nakusp.
Right above what the Arrow Lakes are?
We're on the Arrow Lakes, just out towards Folkier Burton Way.
Okay.
And so
is that how you say it? Folkier?
Folkier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Folkier.
I would say Folkier. And other people say other things, but
yeah, I know if you're local or not how you say it.
Right.
Yeah, what's up with that Folkier? But no, it's Folkier.
Okay.
Folkier, I think
so. That's
so.
beautiful wilderness.
Right.
That's a beautiful place to grow up.
Yeah, and just having all this open land, we could ride motorcycles and bicycles. So just living in that kind of open space, and we had, not really access to malls or anything. Not that we wanted that kind of stuff, but we had. And I'm so grateful that our parents enabled us to be able to ride dirt bikes and BMXs. And so my first bike was probably a BMX, a Kuwahara.
Yeah.
And my dad still has it. He said in his barn somewhere.
No
so
way.
I'm going to go get it from him at some point.
You know what those are worth?
Really?
No, I don't know. A lot too first we loved it.
$1,200.
Well, actually, I found out how much a Cook Brothers Cruiser was. I wanted to get one for my wife because she always lusted after one, and I asked and I checked them out. They were like $25,000-$30,000.
Yeah, well, they're priceless, so yeah, you kind of want to hang on to those things, right?
Heirlooms. Yeah, crazy. So, growing up in the cusp, like great wilderness and not many trails back then, except for the ones you made yourselves, and dirt biking you can go wherever you want, but pretty raw mountains out there.
Yeah, I'd say,
and lots of snow in the winter, tons of snow.
Yeah, proper Canadian kind of wilderness. But when you grow up in it, like anything, it just becomes your normal. So you take for granted now that I live in the city. It's just like, oh my God, the access as a kid where you can just kind of have home on the range and run of the land and, hone your skills and have the space to do it is a big luxury, I think.
Yeah. So after you lived in Crest and grew up there, and when did you move to a bigger city? Did you move to the Lower Mainland here, or?
Well, midway through grade 10, I moved to Whistler.
Okay.
Because my mom was living up there. So I went to live with her. And yeah, well, actually, one of my very first dreams as a kid is I really wanted to be a ski racer. And that was like a passion that I'd had all growing up. So I did do a couple years ski racing at the Blackcomb Ski Club. And, you know, if I look back at some of the faces that were there when I was there, like Chandra was there and Platy and some of the other people that I'm still friends with today. But that's how far back in our high school days, grade 10, 11, 12, some of us were already on the mountain skiing and kind of getting to know each other, So when I moved to Whistler in grade 10, I actually didn't have a mountain bike, but my mom did, and she never rode it. And I don't know why she got a mountain bike. She just had one, and it was always sitting around. So I started riding it, and it was hard as hell. And I don't know why I kept going back for more. I remember
what
my
any
first
mountain biker
couple
can
rides,
say, right?
Yeah. My very first ride, I went with Jen and a really, really close friend, and we went out to Cheakamus Lake and back, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Physically, I was 15.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do more, and I ended up just being really committed to wanting to just keep suffering and pushing myself and seeing where this bike would take me. And that was like fully rigid days, but
Yeah.
so
Which
that's
means,
kind
kids,
of
there was no suspension in the front either.
Yeah. And there
was no Gatorade back then. You just ate rocks. Wow. So, you know, in Whistler, it's technical, it's rocky, it's rooty, you know, like no flow trails back then.
No, it was just more converted trails from hiking
Yeah.
and cross-country ski trails up at Lost Lake and just emerging trails starting to happen.
Yeah.
And just this small little fringe minority of people that were doing it.
So how did you start racing? Like you did like some of the Can-Am Challenge, like the BLT races. Like how did you end up starting to say, I want to compete, I want to race?
My mom saw an ad in a newspaper in Whistler, and she cut it out for me with scissors and said, hey, you've been riding the bike a lot. Why don't you go in this race? There's a mountain bike race coming to Whistler. So that was literally my first race. I was so scared. I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to be in a race. But, yeah, sure enough, went registered, and it was a cross country, and I got last. Cindy Devine was there. She just crushed everybody.
Cindy Devine. When you got the silver medal, did she win the gold medal?
Yeah.
Later at the Worlds?
Yeah. So this is a really funny way that I met Cindy. In the first mountain bike race I ever did, I think I got third or second. There was hardly any of us there, but one of the prizes or gift certificates was an hour massage from Cindy. She's also a registered massage therapist.
Wow.
So
she could kick your ass and then massage it. Oh, sorry about that.
That's
Here, let me put that on.
Sorry for the beating I laid down on you. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that's how we met.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And then obviously both of us racing together and kind of following the same circuit.
She was a legend back then. She was like the fastest.
Such a legend.
Around.
Yeah. And there's a couple other gals here around too. Marcia Wood was one. Michelle Brown, Lumpy's one of his first girls, and him used to be at all the races. But anyway, it was quite a time. Yeah. So that was just sort of how it all got laid out, and there wasn't a lot of people doing it, so you kind of knew everybody.
Yeah.
And there was a cool atmosphere of just, what's this sport, and there's more and more people doing it, and it was just easy to get out and do it in the Whistler time. So.
I remember those days because you'd see another mountain biker and you're like, you'd run across the field like, whoa, dude, you're a mountain biker. Or the same thing with snowboarding back then. You see another snowboarder and you're like, what the hey? You run across and, hey, hello.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's such a mainstream thing. You see another snowboarder or another mountain biker and you're like, just another dude, right? Just another person.
Totally.
As opposed to like, whoa, we're like brothers and sisters. What's your name?
What kind of bike do you got? Because there was only so many mountain bikes being made back then too. So it's not like you had this massive selection of bikes. So it was, you likely knew what somebody was going to be riding.
Yeah.
Based on
a different world. It was a smaller world, simpler times. So that was 87. You're doing the Can-Am Challenge, doing some BLT races, and then you did some racing in 88 at Cyprus. Did you?
Cyprus. I can't remember what. It might have been on the BLT.
Because Cyprus is chunky and gnarly.
Yeah,
and like...
think there was a downhill there. Somebody's going to know. And then there was a Canadian Nationals. I'm pretty sure it was at Burnaby Mountain.
Okay.
SFU. So that might have been 88 or 89. I can see the T-shirt now. I think it had a fox on it. And then guys like Ronnie Red were there, and Chris Otter, of course. Spicer was like crushing back then. Or was Bruce? Yeah, I think he was in there back then at that time. But anyway, it was just the Cove guys and, lots of little Groms and a small kind of campfire huddling group of people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I still go riding SFU. Night riding. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Flowy and easy and just kind of turn your brain off and just,
I love it too.
Gear jammer and like uppercut and lower snake. They're all just like, whoosh. Look at me, I'm ripping like 1988.
Seriously.
So 89 comes around and you went to the Worlds at Mammoth, but this was pre UCI for bicycling in the mountain bike world.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that event was pretty instrumental. And it was hosted by a guy named Bill Cockcroft, who's done lots of different events.
Maybe take that jacket off because it's quite noisy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I can
You don't like that? I'm going to be cold now. Damn. Didn't know it was a Wim Hof chamber down here.
I would hate to have an ice cold drink because then it would be a solid.
Sponsored by Wim Hof.
You go to the Worlds in 1989 at Mammoth, and this is pre-UCI for mountain biking.
Yeah,
This was
1
the
year pre. So it was already, there was obviously, it was emerging huge in the U.S. and Canada. Europe had its thing going on. It was time to, bring everything together. And I think 89 was probably like a good dry run almost at what a Worlds was going to look like. And then the next year it was in Durango, Colorado, for the full-blown UCI Rainbow Jersey event.
Yeah, so. And that's when Greg Herbold won the men's.
Yeah.
And
Cindy Devine.
Cindy Devine, who beat you in your first race, won the first race, won the World Championships, and
then rubbed it in my face.
Yeah. With a massage. Here, let me soothe you after that ass kicking.
Now my hands are even stronger.
But you got a silver medal.
Yeah.
In the World Championships.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah.
But that was 1990. That was the first year that UCI was in. So you're the first UCI downhill vice champion.
Whoa! I've never looked at it like that.
Yeah,
it's another angle.
It's a silver medal, but a silver medal. You're like the vice champion. So
and it was cool too because the downhill was like 7 minutes 36 seconds or something like that, and Cindy and I were on the same second.
No way! Oh my
so
God,
it was
that's a
that
close race.
Long of a race, and it literally came down to within a second.
That is
so
racing.
It's pretty cool, just to have
How
it
many
because
corners
it was
do you go
literally, back? It was still back in the day where the clock was above. And they do obviously do it now, but it's like Jumbotron screens and way cooler. But I think it was like the digital count.
Yeah.
And
like
and you could see it was a super good visual.
Yeah.
From the last probably 500 meters of the course. So you could see someone coming down and snaking through and the clock ticking down. So it was pretty dramatic.
Lots of suspense.
Yeah. Yeah. It was literally just within that second. So crazy.
Did you go back in your mind and think, oh, I stuffed it in that corner. I lost momentum on this section. Where could I have made up a second? Over 7 minutes and 36 seconds.
I honestly gave it everything I had. So I felt when I got, because I had some times where I was like, I'm going to die, or a couple nose wheelies and in breaking ditches and stuff like that. And I just thought, man, I got lucky and I pushed it as hard as I could. I couldn't have gone any faster. Happy for Cindy. Yeah. Because she's just such an awesome person. Yeah. So, yeah.
You still see her?
Mm-hmm. She's one of my besties. And I just went with her last October, November to Bromont, where she got inducted into the Canadian Cycling Hall of Fame.
Cool.
So she was there to receive the award, and for whatever reason, her husband couldn't go. So she asked me if I'd go with her. Yeah. And we had a blast.
That's cool.
Super fun.
That is so cool.
Yeah, super fun.
Wow.
She's doing great.
Yeah.
She's off all social media, so she'll send me things that were going around Facebook like a year ago. And I love that. She's like, oh, have you seen this video?
You're like, yeah, this is so last
like
year.
Like 45 times.
Yeah.
But it's really sweet. I love that. I think it's so cool that she's, there's something to be said about that too.
Oh, no, totally. Wow. Well, that's amazing because you were racing downhill, but you're also doing cross-country racing back then.
Yeah.
You were originally a cross-country racer that switched to downhill, but then you got a silver medal in the Worlds. So you're like, oh, maybe I should do more downhill.
Well, no, not at the time, because the bikes were still kind of similar. Like at that time,
Same bike.
Exactly. It wasn't even to the point yet where you're thinking, oh, maybe I should be on a bike with bigger travel, because this was right around the time when kind of 91 going into 92, that dual suspension was becoming a thing. Okay. And it was like designs were popping up and people were like, whoa, that's crazy. Like shocks in the back too. What WTF? What's this world coming to? I can't believe it. Who would want that?
Yeah, right. And there's people like against it. Like,
they probably want a wider tire too.
Yeah, wider bars? No way, man.
So anyway, at that time, and I think it was significant in downhill racing at that time too, because not every bike company had a good dual suspension bike yet, because it was so new in the making. And it's just such a complex, I mean, when the whole talk around suspension, I just need Cole's notes for me personally and settings, and I've got, pretty good understanding of how it works. But to create some of those designs is a whole other level, right, of engineering and sophistication and shocks and whatever else.
Suspension curves and ratios.
It was just, and it was a race to it too. And it's hard to get things made quickly, and racers are, trying and testing different things. And it was cool though in 92, because I had, actually Steve Mitchell has it in his museum. It's a Paramount, so Schwinn's kind of high echelon brand. Paramount was who made our race bikes. Okay. They made it's a steel dual suspension downhill bike, and it's got a Buell shock in it. What? Like a made by Harley Davidson shock, coil shock. So it's this pretty small tubing steel purple frame that looks quite fragile, like what you might almost see in a, really delicate road bike. Yeah. And then it's got big junk with the Buell shock at the bottom. And it's cool. It's super cool. And that was the first time that I got on a dual suspension bike. It was like, whoa, this thing is just think though, fully rigid to, I think this thing had like 6 inches of travel.
Wow.
So it was It was a made for DH. I'm not sure where this bike went or if it never went in production after the fact, because it was still kind of pushing, on the frontiers of dual suspension, and people weren't totally sold on it. And I think people were concerned that it might ruin the trails because it's going to allow people to go faster and it's going to allow them to shred harder. And so should they be allowed on trails?
With full suspension.
Right? So it sounds like similar things, that get said. It's just funny to hear common things kind of wrap around again. And, but anyway, it was that time, and it was an exciting time in the bike industry because it was just like evolving, exploding
so
with technology so fast and so much cool stuff. And
amazing. Wow.
Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Is this not awesome, people? It's so good. So you did race some more downhills, and after the 1990 Worlds in Durango, did I mention you got the silver medal?
Yeah, let's talk about it again, Brett.
You went on to actually get a bunch of top 10s in the Worlds every year. You were you got a 4th, a 6th, a 10th. All good, fast riding, as well as racing more international events. Was there a World Cup happening yet then? Did that happen in
91 was the first time I ever went to race in Europe, and the first race I did was in like a more local race in Italy, and then there was an actual World Cup cross country race in Italy, and I think it was it Il Choco? Can't remember. Anyway, have to look it up. It's been way too long, but World Cup cross country was definitely a thing, and there were lots of Europeans there and lots of really good Europeans, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
Just cycling being so integral to the culture there anyways. And so it was fun going there from races in the States where you're kind of racing around and there's not a lot of people watching yet. It's still pretty small time, and it's a lot
niche sport.
It's very niche. There's no internet promoting it. It's, you're an enthusiast or somebody that is, and that's how you're getting out to the races.
Yeah.
But starting to build, there was definitely, but when you went to Europe, it was a way different thing, and people coming from far and wide, and grandmas and kids and bells and people yelling and die, die, die. Italians, right?
Yeah.
So that was such a rad experience to have, as, just understanding what cycling culture is in Europe, because it's nothing like it is in North America. It's actually
it's ingrained
changed
into the whole culture. Yeah,
it is
totally.
just part of the culture. And even though you're riding off road, it didn't matter. You're still racing and you're still on a bike.
Yeah.
So die.
The cowbells are out.
Yeah.
I actually had a trivia question in a pink bike video I was doing once, where John Tomac strapped something to his handlebars to drown out the noise of the crowd. A cowbell. A little tiny cowbell he put on his handlebars.
No way.
To drown out the crowd, because they were screaming so loud, to just keep his focus.
Crazy.
Such a weird
I
trivia
heard
question.
That one.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that was from back in those days.
Huh. Interesting.
Wow. So let's take it to 92. The Worlds was in Bromont. In Quebec. Technical, nasty, people
perfect.
think all the knurl's not in BC. There's some knurl out there too.
Yeah, Bromont's, Mount St. Anne is kind of the world famous pinnacle for obvious reasons, and Bromont's amazing too. It's still really technical, and there's some good vert, just a different style and set of terrain, but it's an awesome place too.
So the World's there. You qualified first.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and I was talking with you about it earlier, but it was kind of funny because it wasn't just me, but I think there was a few people there, and on the course there was this big pipe that was sideways on the trail, and it was slippery. And my race run, I hit that thing, and you knew it was there because you kind of had to make plans to jump it. It was there in all the practice runs. It's like it's part of the course. It's embedded into
Same
the
for
train.
everybody.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And anyway, that thing smacked me down. But it was so funny because I was there with Cindy in the fall, Devine, and we walked up on the mountain and we walked up some trails trying to see if that trail still existed, the actual, and of course it's totally been redone and lots of different trails, and I'm sure for a bunch of different reasons, but we were looking for the pipe.
No way. Go after like the
see
like
if
office
the
space
pipe-
with like some baseball bats, like the coffee machine.
And it wasn't dangerous. It was just like there, like a slippery log.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. You're not
One of the
it's just-
features on the course.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
But it was cool. That was the year that Dave Cullinan won,
Okay.
and Julie Furtado won the downhill.
Oh wow.
She won UCI downhill 92.
Okay. And she was a famous cross country racer, legendary cross country racer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Dave Cullinan, he just made the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame. He just got inducted in alongside, I think, Darren Bearcloth. And who else? I'm not sure who else.
That I remember Dave in the
He had good style, eh?
Oh my! In the practice runs too at Bromont, there was this one jump that jumped, I think, a pedestrian path. It was a built-up, slatted kind of walkway, and for Dave, when he aired it, he was as high as people that were on a chairlift way up above. So he was timing some of his jumps to make sure that
He didn't hit the chair.
he wasn't going to hit the chair or people in the chair.
That's insane.
Anyway, it was kind of insane, but he was riding so
nice
well there.
table or nice style.
Oh, just so much style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was-
so
he
much
was ahead of his
style.
time.
He's a rad dude.
Totally. So when you were doing Bromont Worlds, were you on a Schwinn then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that Paramount.
That's what it was,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that bike was 6 inches of travel then in 92. Look it up, man. That
Yeah.
was a lot.
Yeah, that's insane.
That was a good bike.
And didn't
Yeah,
they go
the
bankrupt after that, though? Schwinn went bankrupt for a while?
I don't know. They just stopped appearing in my world, but I don't know the back end details if they got,
Okay.
bought up by someone else or where they ended up in the long run. But some innovative designs back then, and
Yeah.
it totally, that was what, 28 years ago? 30 years ago.
This sport is so
30
young.
years ago. Yeah.
We can look back and see the beginning of it,
Yeah.
I was just down in California and I rode with like 3 of the original clunkers, Otis Guy and Joe Breeze and Charlie Kelly,
No
on the
way.
repack downhill. And they brought their bikes off the shelf from the museum and dusted them off, and they wore their clothes from 1973. And me and Hans Ray went and did a ride with them down the repack. It was sick.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So going from 92 to 93, in 93, you got picked up by Manitou. And
Yeah.
you were hitting a bunch of North American races. I don't know if you went to Europe that year with Manitou, but you were
Yep.
on the race around the world. You were on a Manitou, but not just a Manitou fork. You were on a Manitou bike, which had in the back end
Business in the front, business in the back.
double shocks, like forks on the back.
Totally.
Like there was the chainstays were forks, telescopic.
Yeah, it looked like fork legs.
They looked like fork
It
legs.
was such a cool bike at the time. It was all beautiful, polished,
Yeah.
bright, shiny. And it was also a state-of-the-art
Business
concept.
in the front and business in the back. That's a different website. Double shocker.
Oh, man.
Oh.
You said it.
Oh, so that must have been a crazy thing to ride. So, I don't know how long you were with Manitou for. That was for a couple of years.
No, just that year.
Just that year.
Yeah, just that year.
Because the next year you were kind of like disenfranchised with racing. It was like hard and it's you have to spend your own money back in the day as well as what you get from sponsors and whatnot. So it wasn't just all a full ride and making big money like a pro racer is today. So you went tree planting for a bit in 94 for a month or something, did you not?
Up in your neck of the woods. Yeah, Barrier and Adams Lake.
North of Kamloops?
Yeah.
I lived on Adams Lake, actually.
Yeah, lots of bugs, lots of ticks.
Yeah.
Lots of camping out. And but it was good. It was a really good experience, but it was just a radical change from the 5 years I've had previous. And I wasn't kind of done with racing yet. I still wanted to get out there. But, you know, girls got to go out there and make a living, right?
Right.
But it was so bizarre because this was kind of pre-cell phone time too.
Yeah.
So, you know,
way
you're not
way
really,
pre-cell phone.
Yeah, way pre-cell phone. So you're out there. If you're making a call, you're using a payphone or using a phone from someone's house. But at any rate,
maybe the boss might have a satellite phone.
Or they get a message to the crew or whatever it is. So I get this message from the crew in our tree planting camp, and it's to call this guy back. He wants to talk, Bruce, whatever. And I've known Bruce Spicer for years before that. Just he was kind of like our patriarch of our national
team. He was a
team.
Canadian cross-country champ several times.
Yeah, and just a quiet dude, but just a shredder up and down, and just a brilliant guy. And it's just, he's a really cool dude. For people that know him will agree with me. Anyway, so halfway through that tree planting camp, I get this message, and it's a message from Bruce, and he's calling to see if I would be interested in racing downhill for the rest of the season on a Rocky, and they would help me get to the events and
on a Rocky Mountain bicycle.
Rocky Mountain bicycle, and I said, "Hell yeah,
get me out of here!
Sign me up!"
No way, I want more mosquitoes than ticks.
So it was cool because thank you, Bruce. That was for me. It was one of those, you know, those things that happen in your life, and it's just that little thing that had a huge change in the course of the direction of your life. Not that it's going to be better or worse or whatever, but it's just a pivotal moment. And that was one of those pivotal moments. So I think I've told Bruce that story a few times now, and just how much it kind of reinvigorated me. So I went and we did the rest. So it was probably July, August, September. The rest of that year racing with Rocky, and then that went on till the end of 97. So it was the start of my longest.
So 95, 96, 97, 3 years of 3-year contract. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And what Rocky you're on the speed?
The speed,
which is kind of like a unified rear triangle, kind of like a beefed up pipeline, if you will, prototype pipeline.
Yeah. Just bigger, badder looking, probably a little more beefed out, the swing arms. It kind of had a look to it that...
Was it carbon in the front?
No, it wasn't.
Not yet.
It was all aluminum.
Yeah. Okay,
there wasn't really at that time anybody on carbon dualies that I remember. I'm sure there was.
Wade had a prototype carbon in 97. It looked like it was a pipeline that was made out of carbon in the front, and they was just testing it. There's only one of them. And they went with the aluminum for production, but I remember looking at it going, what is that? Is that a plastic bike? What is that? It's all carbon.
Paper mache, what?
What?
Ooh, it weighs nothing.
Oh my God. Well, when you were on one of those Rockies, is the first time I ever saw you, ever heard of you, or I saw you. I went to the Nationals at Silver Star, and I walked up the course to go check out some racing and hanging out, and you came down. I didn't know you, but this person came down the mountain, and you came into sight flying. You were just flying. Your clothes are going flapping, and like there was a sweeping right with a bunch of huge brake bumps, and you didn't brake to the last minute, and you floated through most of them, and then you just spiked the brake, and I saw your suspension just go whoop, 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 and then you let go of the brakes, and you hit the corner, whoosh, kept your feet on the pedals, and then you power wheelied out of sight while you're still cornering. And I was like, who was that chick? what the hell? And someone's on the piece of paper. That was Elladee Brown. And I'm like, she was fast. And that's the first time I ever saw you. And then you won the nationals. And I was just like, wow, okay, that's Elladee Brown. She's a ripper. It was cool.
That's a cute memory.
That was a good.
What were you doing there?
I was hanging out. I was there to drink beer and party. And,
Same thing.
Freeride stuff. No, I just came to check it out because I'm from Kamloops, so it's just a quick, right away. And then they had like the jams down the middle of the village, with a few jumps and stuff.
Totally, that was such a great venue, and I remember that training for that downhill because I got one morning, and I can't remember if it was race morning, but I had like 4 wasps or yellow jackets or whatever fly into my helmet and just like lay an assault. Probably, I think I'm exaggerating, might have been 2, not 4. But at any rate, I got stung all over, big like cauliflower ear of bite. And so I don't know if that helped.
In your practice run?
It wasn't in my race run.
Oh, okay.
It was earlier that day.
Oh, no.
So I just had to throw that in there because, we need a little bit of sympathy.
What kind of bees make milk?
What?
What kind of bees make milk?
Uh-oh.
Boobies.
Do I want it?
So I couldn't help it. That one probably stung.
Oh, man. I knew it.
Okay, so you had 3 great years with Rocky. You were still racing around the world, but you had done this. You'd raced your heart out forever. You weren't done with racing, but you were on you wanted something kind of different. So you tried some coaching, didn't you not, or some guiding? Or what did you do at the end of that season? Because you've been putting your heart and soul into racing for so long and for so hard, and taking risks and going for it. What happened at the end of '97 when?
Nothing really happened as much as I just wanted to expand my horizons a bit and curious about the bike industry and also about teaching mountain biking as it, being something that a person could be instructed to do, because at that point there were no mountain bike schools really. There might have been super small ones going on, but nothing really nationally certified and nothing that I really knew about in the Lower Mainland other than what this woman, Joan Jones, was doing.
Joan Jones.
She had the West Coast School of Mountain Biking, and it was the first of its kind, and she was teaching people how to ride mountain bikes. And I think in the very beginning when she was doing it, people were kind of like, what? How do you teach someone to ride a mountain bike? That seems crazy.
Yeah.
But Joan had developed and wrote really the first manual for teaching mountain biking and really broke it down to a technical science. And anyway, the caboose on the end of this train is that she would have me come and teach some of her camps and clinics. And that's how I familiarized myself with this methodology of teaching that it's evolved and changed since then, but she really laid down the tracks for that. And so that became a part of what I was really interested in, and what I was doing was helping people mountain bike. And we would normally do women's specific camps, so we would have friends come together and women in an environment where they're not feeling because up until then you were just kind of thrown to the lions a little bit if you were interested in mountain biking.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, hey, I'll take you on, and I'll show you a couple things along the way. It was just like, hey, let's go for a ride.
Yeah. Good luck, sucker.
Just follow me, honey. It'll
Just
be great. Do what I do.
It's like riding with Wade. Just do it.
So, yeah, and it, this is just in the beginning time of this movement happening of creating spaces for people to learn how to ride, to break it down to like you would on a ski lesson or whatever, and then have a ton of fun doing it.
That's amazing.
So I started getting involved with that, and then I was working with Norco on the bike side at that time. Kind of, are we talking?
No, we're still like 97. So before that happened, you did a little thing where you were one of the first professional female freeride riders, and there was the Freeriders with myself and Wade Simmons and Richie Slay and Karis Evans and Damon Skeleton, but there was also the K2 Gravity team with Dave Swelland, Chris Lawrence, and yourself, and you guys were doing some gnarly stuff and doing some cool adventure trips and pushing the sport, and Chris and Swetland were both in the first few cranks, and you were in Kranked 3.
Yeah.
On a great adventure just outside of Las Vegas with Elke Brutsiart, Marla Streb, Damien Skeleton, and Lisa Scher. And you had a segment in Crank 3, all-women segment, the first one of its kind ever. And you guys riding some steep stuff and dropping things. And so tell us about that time of your life when you were riding with Swetland and Chris Lawrence, and then did the shoot with the ladies eventually.
I mean,
how did that happen in the beginning?
It's always about the hanging with the people, getting to the rides, hanging with them on the rides. Like a lot of these trips, as far as the things we were doing, or the what I guess you'd say the throwing down, like you look at now the level of what people are doing on the throwing down, and I bet you it's all, the one thing that's remained the same is it's people are having a ton of fun riding and having this experience with their friends, and that's the part that I loved about the kind of free riding thing and the doing the stuff. Like at the end of the day, everybody wants to stay alive and safe, because a lot of times you're in these remote locations and you're like,
you don't want to get hurt out there.
If something goes down, and if something goes down, not just me, but anybody who you're with, it's going to be a big deal.
Right.
I remember being with, one of my trips was with you and Riva Delgarda, and it was you, Richie, Wade, and there was another guy there, maybe a German dude. And I remember you guys like just pushing each other and doing these various stunts and jumps and drops, because there's kind of all that platformy rock. It's almost like Sedona, but gray rock,
slippery,
like it's just,
slippery,
slippery, nasty rock that you can die on.
Yeah, and big 2,000-foot cliffs everywhere.
Yeah. So just, knowing when, the ante's been too upped, and just seeing I always felt like, there's a lot of pressure too for you to want to up the ante, but it's really your guinea pigging stuff and what's your margin of error versus, maybe you're not, and I guess maybe then you don't really think of that stuff.
I just wanted to meet girls. I was like, I'll do anything.
You want me to jump off that cliff?
Oh, we won't do it. I'll do it for sure then. It was nuts. But it's true though. There's a certain amount of extra danger being, out in the middle of nowhere, where there's no meat wagon to come get you, no helicopter, or at least not for a long time. And so when you're doing risky stuff and you're out there, it's like, it's an extra factor. And so it's all very much part of it. So you had some, didn't you go heli biking with Swetland and Chris Lawrence and got some great...
Yeah, we went up to Mike Wigele's, the little village up there. Yes. And it was awesome. And there wasn't really
Which is a heli skiing operation in the winter, but, you guys...
Blue River.
Blue River, yeah.
2 hours north of Kamloops?
2.5, yeah.
2.5.
2 hours if you drive the way I drive.
Yeah. Of course. And there wasn't really any mountain biking up there, but we rode down, and then we rode down from the top of whatever peak, and our goal is just to see, by looking down from the heli, if there were any of the tenure and swaths of land where we might be able to get out of the heli, ride to tree line, maybe make it through there, connect to that logging road, and somehow get back. So we kind of filmed and documented this little adventure, and yeah, it was really funny. Just because Dave, Sweaty was just the ultimate character, and Chris too. It was really fun. So whether or not we found the route, and we kind of did, we ended up doing just an insane amount of bushwhacking to get through. But it was steep enough that we were just kind of falling down with the bike, and it was nice and mossy. And then we crossed through to the Forest Service Road and rode back to the cabins.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Good times, man.
And then you had some desert adventures with him as well?
Yeah, did some Grand Canyon, Sedona area.
Yeah.
Gooseberry Mesa down in southern Utah. Awesome. Just some of the greats, over to Tucson, Arizona.
And this is all just free riding, having fun, shooting.
Yeah, I mean, we're all shooting, and you know what, you work hard, Tip. It's a big amount of effort to just, make sure you've produced something. But then it was more about us sort of being the subjects of this story that was getting written, whereas I think now I like to write my own story, but then that was the relationship, and it worked great because we were all doing jobs that we needed to do for whatever brands or media or whatever, and getting to do a really cool trip in the process.
Yeah. So, you're with two total characters. Dave Swetlin, he was awesome at dirt biking, skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, whatever he did full on.
Yeah.
And he was like a skinny little guy that had like like medium height, but quite thin and wiry and ripped, super good cardio, but also huge balls. Like, he was a sender. And then Chris Lawrence was no slouch either. He was like 2-time Canadian downhill champ, I believe, or 1-time Canadian downhill.
Do you know he can do a triple sow cow too?
Come on.
He was a figure skater.
Come on.
I'm not kidding.
Chris Lawrence?
Larry is just, he can do everything. He was a figure skater.
Oh, my God.
Plus a hockey player.
Yeah. Well, my parents, when I played hockey, my parents sent me to figure skating to teach me how to skate better.
Aw.
Yeah. And so I did it for a month. Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
I figure skated. What about it? What?
I can jump around. You got a problem?
I met a lot of girls too. But tell me about, like, when you got signed on, Chris Lawrence, Lunchbox Larry, later told you that
this was awesome, Chris. Thank you so much, because it just brought me right back down to earth, because Chris is one of my besties and I love him. But so he said something, we were talking about the old K20 gravity days, and I was just, Larry, that was just so awesome, man. You called me up and asked me if I wanted to be a part of that. That was just so awesome. And he's like, yeah, well, we called Karis and she didn't want to do it, so then we called you.
Come on. Oh my God.
Man. And you know what? I laugh my ass off just because it's so funny, and I thought Karis would love that too.
Yeah.
Because I actually rode a lot with Karis, and she is just a total badass, and definitely
she
was
some gnarly stuff. She was amazing.
Yeah, and like a hardtail or whatever she had, and then she'd go out hunting that afternoon, and then she'd make some jam, and she's
she's full on.
She's full on. Yeah.
So, she became one of the
I'm happy to have taken her spot.
Yeah.
Running shotgun for Karis.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. Who am I to say no?
Here, I got that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So tell us about the shoot for Kranked 3. You guys had the first female free ride segment ever, Kranked 3, and you're with Marla Strab, who was a downhill American racer, Elke Broussard. Where was she from?
She was from Maine originally, but lived in Colorado.
Okay. Another fast downhiller, Damien Skelton. She was like a 2-time Canadian downhill champ as well, a couple times, I think she won. And then Lisa Scher was another American downhiller. So there was a bunch of you fast downhiller girls that are all free riding. And you guys were like just hamming it up in Vegas, with like sparklers on the brassieres and like costumes and wigs and just having some fun. And then you went out in the desert and got rowdy. and an all-girls freeride trip.
Well, it's not, I mean, I know so many girls now that go on free ride trips, and not that women didn't do that back then either. And
But this was the first one captured on film and put in
that,
the movie.
well, and part of the party thing is that we just had so much fun together as a group after the ride days too, and that was a bit representative of, you know, the kind of the blast that we were having, you know, in the evenings, and just doing the day-to-day of getting groceries and finding places to sleep and getting our bikes set up and going to different sections of wherever to try to find really cool stuff to shoot. And that all is a process in itself, and it's so much fun when you're with a good crew of people.
Yeah.
And it just, so it was, yeah, that was and that is really what I loved and love about mountain biking from when I was starting it at 15 years old or however old. It's just so much fun because you're often with really great people if you're choosing, or sometimes not, but that can be good too. Just
because most of your time is not riding. It's all those things in between: cooking, getting there, finding a place to stay.
Yeah.
There's all those things where you have to get along with people to make the whole adventure happen, other than just those minutes of full-on action, right?
Yeah. And that's awesome too, right? I said, yeah. So it was just a trip of, you know, when you're in any, if you're part of the Freeride tour, or you're part of the, you know, whatever tour of a sport you're doing, you really get to know the players in it, and it does become like your family. Whether you're, you know, I've been a rep for many years, and you know all the other reps, and you know kind of, you know, what everybody's doing, and you're on the inside line of a lot of things, and it's the same thing with racing. So it was just to have this collection of gals where we were all, you know, supporting each other always through our racing, and then just to go on a fun trip.
Yeah.
Was
super cool.
And to have it be included in this film. So
Kranked 3.
Thanks, guys and girls who
Ride
made it
Against
happen.
the Machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that was a good time. Let's tell us about something that is a little bit scary sometimes. It's time for the Ride Wrap Crash of Your Life. You got 1 minute to tell us the crash of your life.
Crash of my life. It would have been on a motorcycle.
Really?
Yeah. Does it have to be a bike? Or?
No.
Okay. Motorcycle, head-on collision with a tractor, broke my femur.
What?
My cousin's femur on the back was broken. That was the accident that really just like got me on bikes more, and because this was a motorcycle thing. But I healed, and it's all good, but it was quite violent at the time.
Yeah. Damn.
And there you have it.
Okay. Boom. Glad you're still here. So after Kranked 3 came out, and you're doing a bunch of free riding, you know, with the K2 Zero Gravity team, with the fellow legends that you guys were, you went on to do some repping and some industry work with Norco around 2001. And you started learning more about the industry, and that led into some other things, like you're an instructor at the Shimano Dirt Series. And then you went on to do Shimano sales forever. So, you know, starting with Norco and doing some repping and some stuff, and going on to Shimano, you've had, and you're still doing stuff with Shimano up to the present. You got into the industry side and got all like industry styles, and it's part of your life. Cycling is part of your life. It's part of your business, and it's how you make your living. Tell us about that transition into repping and being in the industry.
Well, I think I was kind of started in with not the industry, so to speak, as, you know, looking for work or anything, but being around the races, seeing the companies that were pitting out of the races, you know, using the product from these companies, and just seeing that there's so much other back end stuff that goes into doing the fun stuff that we get to do, right? The people that are actually selling enough of a product so that they can create a budget to, you know, have you represent, which is a bit of a, you know, it's a luxury in a lot of ways, and you really have to earn that, I think, with companies, because they put so much into, you know, trying to create these amazing products. Anyways, my train just derailed and I forgot. Where's the caboose?
That's a different video.
I'm going to break out into song soon. It's a musical.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl.
Oh, my God. So I says to the guy, I says...
But you're still loving it. You're still riding. You've joined the e-bike ranks, but you still ride a traditional bike. You do both. You ride a gravel bike. You ride a mountain bike. You ride an e-bike. You're still like looking fit as a fiddle. And I think we might go for a ride tonight, maybe with Chris Gagan.
Yeah.
Go up and do a Frome or something. But you're still loving the cycling world.
I've loved it right from the time I was a wee lass. And I still love it.
Lassie. I love that.
Honestly, it's just not really that complicated. I love riding bikes. Ones with motors, ones without, like all of the bikes. Yeah. And it is the people that have been also attracted to riding bikes seem to be my kind of people.
Right.
For whatever reason. And in general,
bike riders are eccentric, and then they're outdoorsy, and they're kind of go for it kind of.
And you got to get, it's hard, and it, you know, like there's all the things about it. And so I think it does really, it's kind of built out my whole life and my social. I have obviously lots of different friends without necessarily a passion for bikes, but it's certainly been my core of my world, and the one that keeps me sane and grounded and humbled, and it's like my meditation, you know, all of that stuff.
Right.
All the reasons we do it.
And Shimano's such a big company. And, you know, the market in Canada, we're not near as big as there are in the States here, but, you know, we still have a hardcore contingent of cyclists here. So, you know, business has been good. And then you've done some marketing. And what have you done for Shimano? Like, what would be your title role over the years with them here in Canada?
Probably sales and marketing. And now I don't do sales with them anymore, but I still have a lot of really good relationships with people at the company from working on the ground there for so long, and just different projects that I want to do. I've approached them about, you know, various trips I've done, and so we've collabed on some social content stuff and some branding books and some stories to kind of bring the product to the forefront without, you know, saying this is how much it weighs. You can get all that technical information, but the concept of the story is once you have that product, what do you want to go do with it? Which is what anybody who gets a product essentially wants to do. So that's been a fun thing to be involved. And they're doing that with a lot of their athletes and, you know, people that ride the product. And so, yes, I'm a piece of that direction of where they're going with their marketing. And I have, you know, even companies obviously like Shimano that are that big, it's still small groups of people that make things work, right? So big company, but, you know, lots of little segments to it that, you forge these relationships, and it makes it super fun to collab and do stuff together.
Does Shimano know that you were once the silver medalist in the World Championships?
I think some of the people that work at Shimano were there. So it's actually not that big of a shock.
I love that.
That was the first year of the SPD pedal. And that was controversial. What do you mean? No toe? Like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
And it was a big thing in the industry. And they had the SPD pedal. And I just remember people just being so...
Did you use it or use a toe clip?
Oh, yeah, totally used that pedal. We were...
With the Shimano shoe as well?
Yeah. Had the gray shoe with the two Velcro straps.
The two Velcro straps.
That revolutionized mountain biking. That and then of course it grew from there. And
I've got some 636 Shimano pedals right over there.
and they probably still work great.
Oh yeah, you can clip them on right now.
That's the problem when I was selling them. That's the problem. They don't wear out.
Right.
Damn. But anyway, yeah. So it's fun to have these long-term relationships. And back, I was telling you when we were doing the K2 Freeride thing, is where I met Kevin Walsh initially too, who is now Evil Bikes, and I now work with Kevin and Evil Bikes.
For like 5 years now or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
what a small little world,
and
eh?
I'd met Kevin way back when, and then out of nowhere in 2017, I had 2 bikes stolen off the back of my vehicle down in California.
No.
And I posted something online like, hey, keep an eye out for these bikes, like gutted because I didn't have insurance on them, and someone cut my locks and took my bikes, road and mountain. And then like 10 minutes later, Kevin sees my post on Facebook and he messages me privately and he says, hey, I'm going to send you a bike. I really want you to try this bike. And that was the the Reckoning. The first big travel 29er bike that kind of revolutionized big 29er core bikes.
Sick.
So that was how I kind of got, just the bikes were stolen, but, Kevin and I, it just was just one of those things.
Works together sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Loving bike people.
Loving.
So we're almost time to wrap it up here, but I'm going to ask you some random questions. This is kind of a new thing we've got going on the BTP podcast, so I'm just going to hit you with some random questions. What is the most tedious and or exciting sport to watch?
I'm going to say the most exciting is Olympic gold medal hockey, women's hockey, and that's on this Thursday night. No, Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Okay. Oh boy.
So yeah, that'll be that for me. I love watching. I love being a spectator.
Yep.
Pinnacle, peak.
And what's the most tedious and boring sport to watch?
Tedious. Probably one that would go too long, like cricket, where it can go for days. I'm sure it's exciting when you know what's going on, but looks tedious, looks long.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What's your favorite month?
The month my period's not in. That month.
Honest answers here. I love it. Oh. What's something you're looking forward to and why? Right now, what are you looking forward to?
Sedona, Arizona.
Oh, you're going to the Freeride Festival?
Going to the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival.
Mountain Bike Festival, yeah.
First weekend of March.
Nice.
Yeah.
Be nice and warm down there.
Yeah. So I'm looking for There's many other things, Brett, but I won't get into it.
Yeah. That's the next one. Okay, cool. What's the weirdest thing in your fridge right now?
That's a good question. Weirdest thing in my fridge right now? Nothing. Everything's supposed to be
Your fridge is
there.
empty?
No, but there's nothing weird in there.
Okay.
I mean, there's an arm, but but it's dead.
Meet your sales quotas. Those things cost an arm and a leg.
So I got the arm. Cheaper than the leg.
What do you call an Italian with one arm? A speech impediment. Okay, next question.
Okay.
What movie never gets old, no matter how many times you've seen it?
Blades of Glory.
Oh, yeah? With Will Ferrell?
I just love that movie. It's so good.
He's funny.
It's so good. Oksana. The Verticoli. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The whole thing. I love that movie.
Awesome.
I bought the CD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, of course. CD is called a compact disc for those that don't know what that is anymore. Next question. What is the most outdated piece of technology you still use regularly?
Oh, my God. I'm an early adopter, so I can't. That's going to be a tough one for me.
Really?
If it's made better and newer, I'm probably going to be using
You
it.
love it. Yeah, you love it.
Sometimes I'm still on my wired headphones when my Bluetooth ones are out of batteries.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's about as far as I go.
Yeah. Last question. What was your worst haircut experience?
Oh, man.
Did you ever get a hack job?
I've had a couple when I was a kid, yeah, but nothing I really cared about that much because I just put a hat on.
Yeah. Very practical. Hey?
Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
Practical people?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple bowl cuts, but I didn't know then. I thought it looked rad. Someone would have showed me, yeah.
You didn't know
It would have
better.
been trauma, but I was running around thinking this is a good look.
Yeah.
So, hey.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, nice to throw a few random questions at you. This has become a thing, so it's kind of humanizing, just kind of a little bit of fun. But before we do sign out, every guest has to tell a dad joke.
Oh boy. Okay, well this is a dad. What's the rating?
Dad plus?
Dad, yeah, it's not dad.
Dad
light.
X?
Dad X.
Kids, cover your ears.
Dad X light.
Okay.
Okay. So what do you get when you cross a deer and a pickle?
What do you get when you cross a deer and a pickle? I don't know.
A dildo.
Of course.
Parents unite. Yeah.
What did the pickle say to the dildo?
Hello, dear.
Or no, what did the deer say to the vibrator? No, what did the pickle say to the vibrator?
What?
What are you shaking for? She's going to eat me.
Okay, you win.
We're not a competition. We're just jamming. Oh my God. Okay, well, there you go. Thanks for coming over and having a word with us and sharing your cycling life with everybody out there. Say bye, everybody. This has been Elladee Brown on the Red Tippie podcast. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, man.
The one and only Elladee Brown. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, good times, man. So what happens now? You got to edit some shit out, no doubt.
Not really.
No. I want to do it again.